Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI, the podcast that connects marketing to your business's revenue and covers everything you need to know to stay up to date in this crazy digital marketing world.
Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI. I'm your host, Shannon Allen, and today my guest host is Gordon Borrell. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much for having me here. I think this is the second time, isn't it?
It is the second time. And before we dig in, I just want to, you're so prestigious. I want to actually, those listeners that haven't caught another one of our episodes, I want to give a little background and have you do the same. Gordon founded Borrell Associates in 2001 and has become the local advertising industry's leading analyst. He is ranked in the top 2% among Gerson Lehrman Group's 150,000 consultants worldwide. Prior to starting Borrell Associates, Gordon was vice president for new media for Landmark Communications, where he started his career 22 years earlier as a newspaper reporter. He is past chairman of the Local Media Association and of the Local Media Foundation. Gordon's company, Borrell Associates, runs the largest survey of local advertisers in the nation, and he is an expert on our favorite topic, the ROI factor. He knows better than anyone that it is the number one thing on local businesses' minds when it comes to advertising. So welcome, Gordon. This was one of our more popular podcasts to listen to. I think that's because of all of your fans.
My fans, a lot of detractors out there too. I hope it's because of the insights, and we put a lot of information, a lot of effort into 100%. Getting insights from advertisers. It's so important that people are plugged into that as they're going out and try to represent themselves, particularly as sellers, but also in the agency business as well, or individual local businesses. That's really important because those things are changing so much in the media space. I hope I can bring some light on that.
I think so. One of the questions you asked me was, who's our audience? When I look at who's listening, it's a little bit of everything. It's existing clients, business owners that are small businesses that might be thinking about digital marketing. It's salespeople. It's other people in our industry that I think are just listening because they can nod along and go, yeah, I hear you. I feel you. We have a good mix of people. My favorite thing when we did our last podcast was really what you just said, your insights. I mean, the surveys that your group does, the insight you're able to give. It's my favorite conference all year long. You are changing it this year and we're going to Phoenix. I love Miami. Don't get me wrong, but I also really love Arizona. I feel like every time I go to one of your conferences, it re-energizes me to get me ready for the year.
Thank you. We put a lot of effort into the program. It's so easy to do a conference and screw it up because you're not thinking of the audience. When you do a conference and it becomes popular, as ours has, we started it in 2010, so it's been around a long time. You begin to get people, your friends. I'm getting literally 2 speaking requests per day. One just the other day sent in 5 or 6 different topics. Hey, I could speak on this and that and everything else. We say it's kind of a little flippant or haughty, but it's generally true. If anyone asks to speak, they're immediately disqualified because you have to have the audience interest at heart. What do people really want to hear? There's so many questions about advertising and marketing, and there's some misinformation out there, some old conceptions that aren't really true anymore. Yeah. And so that's what we focus on in the conference is, okay, let's try to answer some of the burning questions that people have, or the questions people don't even know to ask.
Right. Yeah. That's why we started this podcast. If you ever listened to my beginning story, I was doing these webinars and I was in these little rooms by myself. Nobody could ask questions because there's 50 people on a webinar. My sales reps were feeding me questions that they know their clients need to ask. We realized how valuable that was because they were asking the questions that exactly what you said, they might not even know to ask, made a big difference. One of my favorite things to do at your conferences at lunchtime is I go find a table of people I don't know. And I sit down, you have a mix of vendors, people like me, and you feed off each other. That networking you offer is extremely valuable to get insight.
You're a brave person, Shannon. Go find a table of people you don't know. I find a table where nobody else is sitting.
No, I like to go to a crowded table, but what you find is there are people out there. You don't always want to sit in the group. I guess it's the Virgo in me, Gordon. Well, I'm going to kick it off. I want to get your intake on just some general predictions for 2025 when it comes to digital marketing. So what do you see as the big trends or strategies in marketing, and which will be the most important to a business owner in the upcoming year?
I think in the upcoming year, there's going to be a greater desire to experiment. We noticed in the barometer that we do 4 times a year, a business barometer for small businesses, that there was this big uptick in optimism. It was right after the election that we did this. And so there's a general feeling among small businesses that the environment's going to get better. Inflation will get under control and people will be out there spending again. This is the way businesses feel. And then we asked them, did they think their plans for increasing advertising, were going to come true? They said, we'll wait and see. So it's healthy skepticism among small businesses. We're certainly already seeing it the first quarter. So here's what we think will happen. We think that there will be an interesting increase in advertising beyond what we've seen in the past couple of years. And what happens when there's an increase, when an advertiser, small businesses listening to this know this, when things are looking good and they're feeling confident, they go, I think I'm going to buy a billboard. I think I'm going to try direct mail. I think I'm going to try some of this targeted advertising that somebody's been trying to sell me. I'm going to try something new. At the end of the last year said 67%, 2/3, they're going to try something new. It's a big number. It's not, we're going to increase this or that. We've been hearing about this CTV, connected television or OTT, video advertising on streaming programming, on Hulu or Sling and Fubo and things like that. We can never afford to be on TV. We'd love to be on TV. We'll try it. I think you'll see an increase in spending, which causes an increase in competition, which will give you a great deal of anxiety, but advertising will grow your business. I mean, it's just really simple. It's an investment in the future. A lot of advertisers look at it as an expense. And I think that will change next year or this year. The biggest things that we're seeing advertisers focus on as being extremely effective and still deserving of more ad dollars, maybe they're already using it, so they'll increase spending on it, is social media, search engine marketing, and OTT. They're kind of at the top of the list.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think we felt the same way with our clients. Big year-end renewal, we're doing our strategy reports, and everybody just took a breath after the election. We did a great podcast after the election. I totally agree with what you said. We did feel the surge. I don't care if it's left or right. There was a calm afterwards. A decision was made. We are feeling that enthusiasm with our clients right now. I'm excited. I feel like across the board, we saw a lot of flat in 2024 or maybe slightly above, but we're seeing the excitement and people are taking the initiative. That really brings me to my next question, which is I want to talk about specific products. And you nailed it. I agree with you. You said social media, SEM, and OTT streaming, right? So as it relates to OTT, what are you seeing as we relate to more small businesses using this main staple in their digital marketing strategy? I just did a podcast that will be coming out in February that is what I like to call the tipping point, right? I had a client that told me, let's talk more when we hit that tipping point, when it starts to be not 25% of people are doing OTT. Now it's more than 50% of people are putting their dollars there, or our viewers are moving there and less are on the linear. So what's your take as it relates to more small businesses layering in OTT in 2025?
The first wave of OTT, and for those of you who don't know what it means over the top. It's internet streamed video. It's very simply Netflix, Hulu, Sling, etc. All these programs that we've been binge watching since the pandemic and the ads that get inserted into them, that's OTT or connected television advertising. I think it's about to explode. It's nowhere near the tipping point, but it could take another 2 years to get to the point at which the majority of advertisers are using it. Right now, we're still at only about 12%. That's what our latest survey showed at the end of last year. 12% of local businesses are engaging in the purchase of commercial advertising on OTT or CTV programming. The number of those using it thinking that it is very to extremely effective is really high. It's 31%. So a third of people who use it go, wow, that's extremely effective. And what happens is as they talk to others, other businesses in the community and colleagues, somebody's going to say, hey, you're using OTT. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, how effective do you find it? Yeah, it's very extreme. So it makes somebody else want to buy it. So when we look at those really high numbers, which, by the way, you also see for radio, those who use radio. You also see for social media, that's the highest of all, by the way, search engine marketing and social media. What we think is going to happen is kind of the long tail is going to wake up. The long tail is probably most people listening to this podcast, small businesses, not the really big businesses that have $100,000, $200,000 to spend on advertising, but the really small ones that have $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 spent on advertising. The ones that go, wow, I'd really love to have a TV commercial, but can't afford it. The reason, can I talk to your audience directly, Shannon? The reason you guys haven't been using it is because nobody approached you. I mean, it's as simple as that.
You're exactly right.
Nobody's come up to you and said, hey, you really ought to buy this, and it's cheap. You can buy it for as little as $1,500 and that'll get you 20 spots, directly targeted to people who love to come to Italian restaurants because you're an Italian restaurant, or directly targeted to people who are most likely to buy, high-end furniture or whatever it is that you sell. And that's what OTT is. It's targeted television advertising. It doesn't go out to the whole broad market. It goes out to a specific geographic, psychographic, or demographic target. That is what we think is going to happen with OTT this year. There will be more folks out in the market selling it. And I think it'll just really start picking up. The internet went from something that we read to now something that we're watching. You can't think of your PC or your smartphone. You're now thinking of your television because you're using this monitor, which used to be just a television, to watch stream stuff over the internet and actually do other things, interact with it.
Right. Well, I pride myself on my entire team that we are very educated on understanding how to explain this to a client, because it can be hard to understand if you're not living in this world. The tipping point that I was talking about is the viewership has tipped. There are more people streaming than they are. Oh, yeah. And so the advertising has not yet caught up to that, but I think this is the year that you're going to see that. I'm totally on board with this, that we need more of the sellers out there to have these conversations. I say all the time, why would you choose to only be on one station when you can be programmatic? Because I was working with one of my clients and he had one of his reps come to him and say, that group over there, they're just selling you programmatic. And I said, yes, we are. That's what you want to buy all day long, because now programmatic's a great thing in the sense of the targeting. So let's talk about how OTT is not all created equal. I think that was probably one of the biggest things I asked at one of your conferences, really explaining it, because it's not all created equal. We're a digital agency. We sell OTT the same way as a broadcast company, such as Sinclair or Gray. We're all selling the same thing when it comes to programmatic. So I always talk about the differences we bring to our clients, but I'd love to hear your take on using a media company really versus a digital agency when it comes to streaming TV to get a better understanding for our listeners.
No, there's this. So first of all, if you look at it, the individual markets, there's a lot of money being spent in, and we'll just stick with the term OTT. It's a sucky term, and nobody really knows.
We actually say streaming TV here just because it's easier to understand. But
you should, because we actually asked advertisers in our last survey if they were familiar with the term OTT. I'm looking at the results right in front of me. 60% said, nah, never heard it before. So let's use something else. Let's use, streamed video. And let's not even use the word advertising, because there's more to it than a 30-second, 15-second spot. If you look at, let's say, Kalamazoo, total advertising, we have forecast to increase this year 1.4%, 1.3%. If you look at OTT, it's 5 times that, 5.8% increase. There's already 17 million spent on streamed video marketing of some sort. Mishawaka. Is that how you pronounce it? Mishawaka?
Yep, Mishawaka.
That's kind of fun to say. Mishawaka.
It's right next to good old Notre Dame. And it's almost our national champions here, but they're right next door, neighbors to South Bend.
So this is basically Cass and St. Joseph counties. There's also 17.5 million spent on video. And then you look at Fort Wayne, and that's a lot. You're at 46 million, up 4.4% this year. What I would encourage the advertisers, the businesses, the marketers listening to this podcast to think about is how you can use video to tell your story. Maybe it is a 15 or 30-second spot, traditional TV spot. You'll need some help with the creative, make it professional, maybe make it funny. That really helps.
Yeah.
But also, how do you sit in the edge of your desk or out in front of your truck, your electrician, and talk about why you're so much better than Sparky, that other chain electrician out there you always have to clean up after, right? You've been around for 50 years. You're a family business. You got a great story to tell. You can't really do that in a newspaper ad. You don't have enough time. You're so constricted in radio. You can do it on your website, but who's going to come, right? So you want to get that story out there. And what a better way to do it than video. So it's much more than just a spot where you've got a special on running shoes, or you have a new aluminum frame mountain bike in your bike shop and you want to talk about it. It's tell the damn story. You've got the medium at your own disposal. Don't do it yourself. Get a professional, because if your daughter has an iPhone and video editing capabilities, you're going to get a video that looks like your daughter with an iPhone and video editing capabilities did it. And you're going to look kind of amateurish. This is your time to shine. So go look for some agency help, some people who have expertise, and by all means, start telling your story. You got a lot of stories to tell. I'm sorry, I'm going on. I'm excited about this, Shannon. There's an ice cream shop in St. Petersburg, Florida. A guy was telling me this, he runs an agency. And he said, I love selling these videos. I went in and said, hey, tell the story about your ice cream shop. Now, what makes you different? And he said, I shot one video about them talking about how they established their ice cream shop, why they loved ice cream as a kid, and they really wanted it this way, and they made it, and they got a big following. But then they said, well, one of the things that makes us different is this banana split here, and the way we make a banana split, and the type of, this and that we put on. Like, okay, there's another video. And another, we have the way we make, the Bing cherry vanilla ice cream. So we use a certain type of cherries, So they had a whole series. They had their own YouTube channel on how to make a freaking ice cream cone. It was great. It was great. And they got lots of exposure.
But it's great strategy. There was a strategy behind it. We talk about that a lot. One of my favorite was we started to work with a newer RV company that hadn't done advertising nationwide. And we sat down with them and created 6 videos they needed to do within the year to tell their story. It was one of my best case studies I've ever been able to put together, because wow, once they did that, and the return they got on that was just, it was amazing.
The other thing you need to think about if you're a business is, and we've done this with our business, we're a research company. Researchers are kind of boring people, but we realized, hey, we can bring this stuff to life and it'll make us appear to be experts on a particular topic, which we are, because we're sitting on top of all this research. So you are experts. If you're a personal injury attorney, you're experts on advising people what call not to make right after an accident. And by the way, it's the call to the insurance company, right? No, call an attorney. Things you should know, before you're sell your house. If you're real estate, tax attorney, landscapers, they got a wealth of information, that will tell you how to get your lawn to green up, or why your lawn's not greening up, or how to prevent weeds, or how to landscape, or things like that. And so positioning yourself, using the media at your disposal, the internet, YouTube, your own website, email lists, etc., and buying exposure for that, what you've created in other people's media, in the audience channels, is what an agency should be helping you with, establishing yourself as an expert on insurance, on law, on mountain bikes, on whatever store it is that you have and what you do. Show them how much you're an expert.
Yep, agreed. Well, let's kind of talk about some of the other digital solutions that I think are going to be big for 2025. You already mentioned one that I was going to ask you about was SEM. You mentioned social media. We still do a ton of display ads with our clients because, to be honest, it is the highest ROI that we tend to find because it's affordable. And we can really ultra target it the right way, even with the death of the cookie. You know, the cookie's been dead for years as far as our clients are concerned, because that's not the way we've been targeting. But I'd love to hear from you on some of those other solutions we already mentioned, what you think between SEM or social, like what are some of your thoughts on that for 2025?
I think the SEM is in trouble. I think it's still very effective. It is actually the most effective, just a little bit higher than social media. 51% of advertisers in our last survey back in November said that they felt that SEM was very to extremely effective. That is an off the chart number. 20% say they find it very to extremely effective, because small and medium sized businesses are usually pretty critical and very guarded. You know, it was good, but not that good. I still think I spent too much money on it. They're loving search. We all kind of hope here in the analyst world that search goes away because it's really expensive. You know, if you want to get any type of exposure, you're going to have to bid really high on those keywords. So 40% of advertisers are buying it. 51% find it very to extremely effective. The average spending on it is kind of nosebleed level. It's $44,000 a year. That's what the average small, medium-sized business, and I'm sure many in the audience are going, wow, I can't afford to spend that. Mm-hmm. But you do have to spend large amounts of money to kind of make it effective. 22% are advertisers expecting to either increase their budgets on SEM this year, if they've already buying it, or start buying it anew. And very, very few expect to increase it 3% or decrease it. Cut it. Yeah. Only 3%. So that's really high. I think social media is the highest when we look at what percent are buying it, what percent plan to add, and what percent plan to increase spending on it, and what percent plan to cut it. We all also hope social media would go away from a annoying, perspective. Annoying, but it's a net growth of 22, and it's at the top of the list. So that would be a 22% increase in spending on it. I can tell you what my opinion is of all these. I hope search goes away. I hope social media goes away. But advertisers go, oh, damn things work pretty well. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to briefly talk about, and it's really high on the list. I think it's the third highest, tied with website ads or banner ads, which you mentioned, Shannon, is event sponsorships. Mm-hmm. This is really remarkable what's happened since the pandemic with events. Pandemic, everybody was on shutdown. Everybody had to be virtual. Everybody had to communicate with people through their websites, right? Everybody had to wear a mask. Everybody had to stay away from everybody. Everybody had to stay home. And then people got tired of that. By people, I mean businesses. They go, I'm tired of this virtual stuff. I'm trying to figure out whether I've gotten 20 likes on this posting I had on my Facebook business page, whether half of them came from China. So now they're getting out and saying, I need to get out and visit people. I want to sponsor an event. I want to have a table at this festival. I want to have my name up on the banner. I want to go meet people. I want to sponsor a cocktail party. Yep. So 56% of advertisers bought event sponsorships in 2024. That's a pretty high number. And in fact, it is the highest of all types of advertising. So when you say, what's the most popular form of advertising? Well, in 2024, it was event sponsorships. That beat out social media, search marketing.
That's funny. That's great to hear for my sister company, the Radio Group, because they're known for their events. There's nothing like that crowd you see at these events when you do something like that. Yeah. So
about a third of buyers, a very strong indication, found it very to extremely effective. And 18% were planning to increase that. It's also a very high number there. So events was kind of a come from behind. There's only one other thing I'll mention, and that was, how the heck did that happen? You hear about print media, and nobody's reading newspapers anymore, and print media is just too costly to put advertising in. Well, that's true of everything except direct mail.
Really?
Businesses love direct mail. It's got a really high effective rating, and quite a few are going to try it again or try it this year.
I'm a big believer in the mix, the traditional mix with your digital mix. I never want to just have somebody sitting on digital only, even though we show that people's budgets can be 60 to 70% of digital marketing. If somebody is strong in direct mail, we work with a lot of credit unions and banking, and they still believe in their direct mail. what we love is we take their list and run it through the addressable geofencing and complement it. And it does so well. I'm doing a series on case studies this year, and some of our addressable geofencing has been amazing. A lot of that's coupled with their direct mail pieces.
It's pretty clear that any type of advertising you do really has to be supported or complemented by another form. You can't just go, I'm going to buy keywords, sit back, wait for the door, to open and people to come in. Right. You got to do 3 or 4 different types of media. And with direct mail, it's certainly true, especially if you're doing what's called marriage mail, which is going to slip a coupon in that Valpak envelope for 50% off installation of roofing. You're going to be in with 10 other roofers that have the same offer. So if you've kind of softened up the market with some banner ads, TV, if you can afford that, cable spots, outdoor or yard signs where people see your name again and again, then guess what stands out among all those roofer coupons when they come in the mail? Yours, because, I heard of these people before.
Because you compliment it,
Yeah, radio is a great place to do that. Radio has got a really broad audience. And there's just something about an audio commercial that makes people pretty comfortable, in addition to any type of visual. Search is certainly good if you're going to be in the display network and do some audience extension type advertising, especially if it's tagged to search. I needed a new grill after Christmas. My grill kind of rusted out, and I searched for one. Haven't bought one yet. But you know what's on sale everywhere whenever I go to a website? Grills.
And you know what? If you're going to get delivered some ad, don't you want to have the ad that you're more interested in?
Well, yeah, but my point is this: if you're selling grills and you ain't in that network, guess who I'm not buying from?
It's from you. Yeah. Well, we say it all the time. When our sales reps are looking for a valid business reason to try to get a meeting, the most effective one is I can't find you when I search for you. Bottom line is if your products and services do not show up when I search, that's where the search starts. The complement is that OTT, the streaming video, the radio commercial, the direct mail, but the search is the start to me. You've got to be there. So I love that you brought up SEM. We talked a little bit about social and display.
Can I mention one other thing about search? Because I think this is something to think about. I'm just so nauseated when I open my email because out of the last 10 emails that came in the past 5 minutes, 9 of them are about AI, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we believe that AI is going to significantly reduce search traffic. Hasn't happened yet, but it will. If you use Google, turn on Gemini. Gemini is the search result based on AI. So when you say, what's the best type of grill to buy, it won't come back with 10 or 15 different sponsored messages on grills for sale from Sears and from whoever has grills. Is Sears still around? I don't know. So it will come back and say, well, the best way to determine the type of grill that you buy is, so what that does is it kind of pushes down the results and answers the consumer's question. If that's going to occur and you're putting all your money in paid search, then the people who are going to go, I know what to do. I know really how to fuel this. I'm going to start putting a lot of content about grills because I'm the grill store. And I'll start putting content on how to pick the best grill. I won't just have a website on what's for sale. I'll have this, and I'll have a picture of me in my backyard in front of a grill talking about how to pick the best grill. It'll be 90 seconds long. I will put it on YouTube, and I will put it on my website in the YouTube frame, which, guess what? Increases your search rankings because guess who owns YouTube? Google. So the understanding of, hey, there's something coming. It's AI. I've got a couple of years to increase the content on my website, in blogs, in videos, and things like that. I think will really position you well a couple of years down the road when we will begin to see a decrease in search traffic.
I couldn't agree more. I've run an AI committee within our company between Federated Media and FDS. That is really a big topic of conversation because it does come back to content and video content, having the valuable, because if you think about it, the last time you Googled something, you're exactly right. If you have Gemini on, it's coming up with your AI-generated response and then links to blogs and articles backing up what their response is. So the content's going to be such a huge part of the search. I still think you need SEM, and I think we're a long ways away from that going anywhere, but you are 100% accurate when it comes to, we got to prepare for what happens in the next couple of years. So you might have answered this last question I had for you, but I thought we'd wrap it up here. What's the buzzword for local businesses in 2025? I do think AI is probably the biggest buzzword out there right now. Our job as a digital agency is just to help our clients understand what that means, and how that most of the AI that's already incorporated into all the vendors and partners we work with. Is there a different buzzword that I'm not thinking of, or is AI the buzzword for 2025?
There's two buzzwords. There's buzzword for the common man, and that, everybody's going to go, oh, that's the buzzwords. That's the buzzwords, and it's going to be, I don't know, something like OTT or CTV or video advertising. And everybody's going to go, oh, yeah, we need to do that. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but the cognoscente are going to have their own little buzzword. And it's going to be a little hard to understand. If you can't understand it, you should be in the cognoscente, the digerati, the people who know stuff's coming down the pike and they're going to move their cheese. That is AI. If you understand AI, you can't spend all of your time trying to figure out what it means. If you do something simple, and this came from one of our conferences, I guess our last conference, Shannon might have been there, from our keynote speaker on AI, brilliant guy, head of the AI Marketing Institute. He said, here's what you do. You just do something related to AI every single day. And I'm going, what the hell am I going to do every single day? It's Gemini. I mean, it's as simple as Gemini. You start using it and then you realize, oh gosh, I see how this works. I see how this makes things, really easy for us. It's really easy for you to say, oh God, I got too many other things to do. This is probably overhyped and it'll eventually come to me and it'll make my business better, but somebody will actually do it for me. Yeah, you're right. That will probably happen. But if you really want to understand it, not have it bite you in the ass, you should get some type of AI plugin. You should maybe go to ChatGPT or Open.ai and see how it works. What's going to happen is people are going to go, okay, I've got this website, it's got all great stuff on, and I want to plug this in. It will write a blog for me based on this. Well, that saves you a whole lot of time. Or it will analyze one of your spreadsheets. You can feed an Excel file into it. What are the things that should concern me the most? And Mr. or Ms. AI, whoever's behind that big machine, is going to look at it in a nanosecond and say, hey, did you realize your expenses were up 685% in this area? And, it doesn't relate to this line of sales over here. It's that sophisticated in some cases.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to really enable businesses to flatten expenses. I think that's the very first thing that it will focus on. And then also create advantages that we might not have been thinking about, like I mentioned earlier, with search.
Right. Let's bring it back to what the podcast is about, which is return on investment, right? For local businesses, can you share what you believe will bring them their best ROI for their marketing? If you could only pick one in 2025, what would you put your hat on?
One thing to put advertising in?
I'll give you a 1 and I'll give you a 2. I'll give you a number 1 and a part 2 of that.
Yeah, I would say just because it's so inexpensive, easy to configure and use, and it does have good results, is targeted banner advertising. To get into that, if that's all you had to spend, I'd spend that. Number 2 would be kind of an exception. If you understand the statement location, 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 and you are in a good location and there's a lot of traffic by it, then it's a sign, isn't it? It's a window sign. There's your best investment. Take a look at that sign. Does it say Smith's Shop? What the hell is that? It's got to say who you are. Also from the road, does it look inviting for people to come into your store? Is there a parking space they can readily see in the 3 or 4 seconds they have when they're approaching you on their way home? They go, hey, I think I'll pull in here. I do need a new vacuum hose, and they have one in this vacuum store. No, this doesn't look like enough parking spaces. So those little things are often overlooked. They know it's not advertising, but it is marketing.
I couldn't agree more. I tell clients all the time, if you have to choose, I'm going to keep you with display over anything, social media, because it has the highest targeted and, to me, a higher conversion. You're totally right with the sign. We are frustrated the most with businesses that come up with this really strange business name that it makes no sense to what they do. Like, I love it when,
or they're a hair salon and they put the name of the salon in script, which you can't read. It's fancy script letters. Come on.
Let's just keep it simple, right? I agree. This is always one of my favorite episodes to do with you. I hope you'll do one every year. I think I'm going to bring some equipment with me and do a couple live podcasts at the conference this year in Phoenix. I have got a couple of my friends lined up that I'm like, let's get together and just talk about marketing. Let's get in a room and do something fun. So that's what I'm planning for the Borrell trip.
Cool.
So,
There'll be some other interesting folks to talk there and to nail down.
Yes, that's what I agree. So thanks again for joining me. Thanks everybody for listening, and tune in to next week's episode of Digital Marketing ROI.
You've been listening to Digital Marketing ROI from Federated Digital Solutions. Do you have an idea for a future episode or a burning digital marketing question? Text ROI to 45364 to get a link where you can share your idea. Subscribe to get new episodes every other Thursday, plus Tip Tuesday insights every week.
Podcasts by Federated Media.